So, after all these years, I've finally gotten a physical copy of Sly Thieves in Time. It's the only game in the series I haven't played yet, for various reasons I'm sure I'll get into at some stage in the future, but it really made me want to replay through the original trilogy. So, here we are today. I've finished Sly Raccoon, or Sly Cooper and the Devious Raccoonist if you're from America, and let me tell you, I remember why I love this game so much. I think the main way I can summarize it is just the game is solid. Solid platforming, solid story, solid graphics. The only thing that drives me crazy is how often it deviates from regular platforming missions, but we'll get into that. This game is naturally the first entry in the franchise, and it introduces us to the main ensemble we'll be working with throughout the entire series, including Murray, Bentley, and the main man Sly Cooper himself. We're introduced to their backstory, which heavily plays into the plot and is the motivation for the journey we're taking on. Sly comes from a long line of master thieves who know all their findings and skills into the Devious Raccoonist. Sly one night was meant to inherit this from his father. Before the passing of the torch could be had, a group known as the Fiendish Five rocked up. They tore pages from the Devious Raccoonist and are implied to have killed Sly's father. Sly was hidden away during the encounter, but was able to see everything as it went down. Sly was taken into an orphanage where he met Bentley and Murray. They played little schemes together growing up, robbing cookies from kitchens and coming together as a family. They swore to avenge Sly's father and reclaim what was rightfully his. That's where the characters' heads currently lie, and it's where we get dropped into the story. I'm going to take this moment to mention the game's first positive, the beautifully animated opening and closing cutscenes in each episode. Each used to give context for both the villain we're set to face and the location they're currently residing in. Each are narrated by Sly, who's voiced by Kevin Miller. I think he does a great job throughout the game, but especially in these moments, excellently setting the tone for what's next to come.
Raleigh, who quickly became addicted to crime, was brought into the Fiendish Five as chief machinist, where his evil tinkering genius rose to new heights.
And just briefly mentioning about how it's beautifully designed with those cutscenes, the cel-shaded style graphics of this game also, I think, stand the test of time. There was a revamped version with the HD trilogy for the PS3, but for the sake of this playthrough I'm just using the PS2 version of the game. But still, graphics and cutscenes, beautiful. Given the backstory, it should take no one by surprise that our goal is to take on the Fiendish Five and to recover all pages of the Devious Raccoonist. The Fiendish Five consists of, believe it or not, 5 members: Raleigh, Mugshot, Ms. Ruby, Panda King, and Clockwork. None of the characters are groundbreaking by any means, but the intros to each episode do add a level of understanding as to why they became who they are when we met them, aside from Raleigh and Clockwork. Mugshot was bullied, his only friends were the gangsters he's seen on TV growing up. Gangster dogs, by the way. Everyone was afraid of Ms. Ruby when she was a child. The only friends she had were zombies that she resurrected. And the Panda King was like some sort of a serf or a plebeian essentially. He got rejected by local noblemen and was made a mockery of when he tried to display fireworks to them. So, relatively understandable. Raleigh was just bored. This fellow was already rich and decided that wasn't enough and just wanted to become a pirate. Clockwork was a dickhead. Overall, I do like the Fiendish Five. I think the worlds they inhabit represent them well, the missions and the enemies all relating to them. I even like their boss battles, although I wouldn't say they're challenging. Aside from the Miss Ruby battle on the PS3 remaster, for those who don't know, the Miss Ruby boss battle is a rhythm game. And, the sounds aren't synced up. How they manage that, I don't know. But again, overall, they aren't necessarily deep characters. They don't develop too much beyond their intros, but they're still just interesting enough to make them memorable in my opinion. Aside from the prologue, the first level we get into is a stealthy approach. This is my iconic level. The main one I remember from when I was younger with my hundreds of playthroughs. Our first true outing as Sly, the atmosphere is amazing, Raleigh's henchmen are just thugs, and the introduction to his storm machine.
According to my amphibio positioning system, that big blimp is where Raleigh is hiding out.
You know, that blimp looks more like a machine than a hideout.
You're right, Sly. That is a storm machine. It's the reason...
Younger me thought this dude was a menace, and to be fair, he's going around sinking ships and robbing them for the laugh, so he kind of was. Between the prologue and this mission, we're shown the majority of moves we'll be using throughout the game, aside from unlockable techniques and the dreaded non-platforming levels that the game insists on shoving down our throat near the end. Anyways, a stealthy approach aside, I do really like the general role structure for each episode. We do missions to get keys, and we use the keys to access the boss of the area. Nice, easy, simple. I love it. We don't get too much story in the episode itself, if any at all really, but I don't mind that because I like the feeling of being in the moment. For each boss, it's like we just show up to their ground, ransack their place for treasure keys, and whether it be shooting ourselves out of a cannon at Raleigh or launching ourselves into the sky with fireworks to access the Panda King, we show up and shut the shit down. There we go. The only member whose world doesn't really follow this general layout is Clockwork, and again, he's a dickhead, so... Each mission, bar certain evil non-platforming levels, have both clue bottles and vaults. We collect all of a mission's clue bottles, and Bentley can crack the code of the vault. You do not need to do this. You definitely don't. But, if you want to complete the TV's Raccoonus, you're gonna have to, because we only get one page at the end of each boss battle. The rest of the pages are in these vaults. Besides, it gives an extra cutscene at the end of the game. It's totally worth it. I do actually think the clue bottles and vaults are worth going for, because of my first negative I'm going to get into. This game is kind of short. I think it's more because of it being a product of its time. It's over 20 years old, and given its genre, you shouldn't be expecting the length some RPG would provide. But I can complete this in like 4 or 5 hours. I'm sure some people can do it quicker. I think the bottles help pad it out a bit, and you unlock more moves as you're going, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's short. If you're into speedrunning, they have time trials for each level in the post-game, but the main game itself I do think suffers from its lack of length. But I mean, if you're playing the game for the first time, you'll get more out of it than someone who's playing it for their 100th time. Maybe the issue's me, but you know, one issue I can say that isn't me is the time when the game moves away from platforming and how often it does it.
This mission's ass!
Each hub world has at least one level that isn't normal platforming, and they all just kind of feel like minigames. When I think of them individually, they aren't bad at all, but collectively, I feel like they dampen the experience the game offers. In Tide of Terror, we're fighting off crabs so we can destroy treasure chests. In Sunset Snake Eyes, Murray goes to a hot dog stand, then gets challenged to a race by some gangster dogs for a key.
Well, I drove to this hot dog stand for a quick snack, and the next thing you know, I'm getting challenged to a race by these gangster dogs.
Then another level, Murray also finds a key, but we have to use a turret from a distance to protect them. Vicious Voodoo has a mission where we drive over piranhas so we can light up tikis, a mission on a moving turret, and a mission where we have to whack chickens while dodging bomb-toting roosters. These levels aren't bad by themselves. Individually, I'd say I like them, but how frequent they occur and how they hold the same weight as the platforming levels in that the final reward is a key, that annoys me. Fire in the Sky has 3 more non-platforming levels, a race,
Minding my post when I notice this snow cone stand, and I think to myself, hey Murray, you gotta keep your energy up. So I hurry over here, and then all of a sudden, monkeys are everywhere, bugging me to race them 3 times around this track for a key.
and one of both types of turret level. And it's funny, because playing through the game normally, it's not something I think about all too often. But in retrospect, I'd say there's too many of these levels. The mad part is how hypocritical I'm about the sound. The Cold Heart of Hate is Clockwork's chapter, and that has the least amount of platforming levels in the game. But aside from one, I think the non-platforming levels work well to set the tone and carry the story. We operate a turret atop the gang's van as we make our way to Clockwork's hideout in the Krakow volcano, showing our toughest entrance mission yet. In terms of scale and enemies, we have a hacking minigame to turn off poisonous gas to save Sly after he falls for one of Clockwork's traps. Then another turret protection level, but wait, we play as Carmelita protecting Sly as he goes to retrieve his cane. They made a temporary truce while they both worked to stop Clockwork, showing the growth in Carmelita's character. 2/3 of the final fight, we use a jetpack to shoot Clockwork, but we can only shoot areas zapped by Carmelita, showing the two work together to take him down. The only level I'm not too keen on is the one where you fight lava slugs for computers. That's ass. But then, it makes me think, those other non-platforming levels we were doing earlier in the game, they were preparing us. We grew into the game with Sly, learning as he learned and using everything we gathered along the way to take down the Fiendish Five. And then that makes me have another retrospect mid-Sly Cooper retrospect. Maybe those levels aren't so bad. Maybe they're a pain in the hole along the way, but you know, they all accumulated and they came together to give us this. And in our final moment, we use our platforming techniques to reach Clockwork and take him down for good, and to get what should be, or what is, whatever way you want to look at it, the final or second last page of the Tivius Raccoonus. And I just sit and think how for the 110th time or whatever time it is I've played through this game and thought, wow, this still is one of my favourite platformers, if not my favourite platformer, and how it opened up the door to what would become one of my favourite series. Well, I haven't played Thieves in Time, but the Sly trilogy. Sly Raccoon is a game I have come back to so many times throughout my life. It was the first game I can remember completing way back on my PS2. After playing and collecting all TV's Raccoonus pages, I can say it was a joy. It has great humour, it's a fun platformer, and aside from certain mission types overstaying their welcome, it's a great opening to a great series. And that's the best part. This is only the first one. To anyone who can access on the PlayStation catalogue, I'd highly recommend. The footage is of my playthrough using PCSX2 to emulate the PS2 version, because I don't have any way to capture footage of my PS2 or PS3 yet. To anyone who's made it this far, thanks very much for watching. This is my first time doing a video like this, so with regards to its length and its editing, and even with my narration, I'm sure there's a lot of things that can be done better, but you know, gotta start somewhere. And why not start here with one of my all-time favourites in Sly Raccoon? So again, thanks very much, and take it easy. I'll say as well, a stealthy approach is fairly bare bones in terms of platforming. It's my iconic level because I used to rent the game before I actually owned it, and well, I never set a save file, so every time I got the game to rent, I just had to retrack that level. So yeah.
You're no match for Mugshot. Let's do that. Wow, you're a Cooper? You know, that Thingus Rackamagookus had a lot of nice pictures, but way too many big words.
So you don't mind just handing it over?
What, are you kidding? You break into my place, steal my stuff, trash the joint. I feel transgressed and violated.